Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you from the heart today. I want you to understand something real simple, something that changed my life forever. Success depends on habits, not talent alone, not luck, not who you know. Habits. The things you do every single day when nobody is clapping for you, when nobody is watching, when there's no spotlight on you. That's where success is born. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this the way it needs to be said, straight from the heart, because I learned this lesson the long way. Success is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not something that just happens to a chosen few. Success is built brick by brick through daily habits practiced consistently. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep wondering why other people seem to move ahead while you feel stuck in the same place year after year. I want you to really hear me on this. Nobody just wakes up successful. Nobody rolls out of bed one morning and magically becomes great. What you see on the outside is the result of years of habits you didn't see. The late nights, the early mornings, the discipline when it wasn't fun, the consistency when it wasn't paying off yet. That's what success looks like before it ever shows up publicly. A lot of people want success, but they don't want the routine that produces it. They want the reward without the repetition. But life doesn't work like that. Success responds to what you do every day, not what you say you want. You can talk about your dreams all day long, but your habits are answering for you. Your habits are telling the truth about what you really believe and what you're really committed to. See, an accident is something that happens without intention. Success requires intention. You have to intentionally choose habits that move you forward. You have to intentionally decide how you spend your time, how you protect your focus, and how you handle setbacks. If you leave your life on autopilot, your habits will take you wherever they want to take you. And most of the time, that's not where your dreams live. Let me tell you something personal. There were times in my life when I was gifted, but my habits weren't matching my dreams. I had talent, but my consistency was off. I had vision, but my discipline was weak, and my results reflected that. I didn't need more talent. I didn't need a miracle. I needed better habits. Once I understood that, everything started to change. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. That's where people mess up. They think success requires some huge, dramatic move. No. Success requires small, smart habits done every single day. Getting up a little earlier, being a little more prepared, staying focused a little longer, speaking to yourself with a little more faith. Those small habits compound over time, and one day you wake up and realize your life looks completely different. The problem is, habits don't give you instant rewards. And we live in a world that wants everything right now. That's why people quit too soon. They don't see results fast enough, so they stop. But success is patient. Success is waiting to see if you're serious. If you keep showing up, even when nothing seems to be changing, life eventually has no choice but to respond. Bad habits work the same way, just in the opposite direction. Nobody plans to fail. Nobody wakes up and says, today I'm going to mess my life up. But poor habits quietly do that job over time. Procrastination, negative self-talk, making excuses, wasting time. Those habits don't ruin your life in one day. They do it slowly, so you don't notice until years have passed. That's why you've got to be honest with yourself. Look at your habits because they are already predicting your future. If you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. That's not punishment. That's just life responding to your patterns. Change the pattern and the results have to change. Let me say this clearly. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not disqualified. But you do have to get serious about your habits. Success doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. You don't have to win every day. You just have to show up every day and do what needs to be done. And here's the powerful part. Once good habits are built, they start working for you even on days you feel tired, discouraged, or unsure. Habits carry you when motivation runs out. That's why the most successful people in the world don't rely on how they feel. They rely on what they've trained themselves to do. Ladies and gentlemen, success depends on habits because habits shape who you become. And who you become determines what you can handle, what you can receive, and how high you can go. When you commit to daily habits with discipline and intention, success stops being a mystery and starts becoming a result. And that's something every single one of us is capable of if we're willing to do the work every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really lean in and listen to this because this is one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about success. People think success comes from one big decision, one lucky break, one powerful moment that changes everything overnight. But that's not how life really works. Success is shaped by small decisions repeated daily until they turn into habits. And those habits shape your character, your mindset, and eventually your future. Every single day, you are voting for the person you are becoming. Not with big speeches, not with dreams you talk about, but with small choices. What time you wake up, what you do first thing in the morning, how you speak to yourself when things don't go your way, whether you push through discomfort or avoid it. These decisions may seem small, but they are powerful because repeated choices don't stay small for long. They stack up. Character is not built in crisis. Character is built in routine. Who you really are shows up in what you consistently do, not in what you say you believe. You can tell me you want to be successful, disciplined, confident, and focused, but your daily habits will tell the real story. Your habits don't lie. They expose what you truly value. See, a lot of people sabotage their future with small, careless decisions and don't even realize it. They think missing one day doesn't matter. They think procrastinating one more time won't hurt. They think negative self-talk is just being realistic. But when you repeat those small decisions every day, they become your identity. And once something becomes your identity, it becomes very hard to change. On the other hand, small positive decisions work the same way. Choosing to prepare instead of winging it. Choosing to learn instead of complain. Choosing to stay disciplined instead of comfortable. At first, those choices don't feel rewarding. Nobody claps for them. Nobody notices. But over time, those decisions create a person who is reliable, focused, and ready when opportunity shows up. Let me tell you something important. Your future is not shaped by what you do once in a while. It's shaped by what you do consistently. You don't get strong by going to the gym once a month. You don't get wise by reading one book. You don't get successful by working hard one day. Become those things by repetition. Repetition builds habits, and habits build character. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because their daily decisions don't match their long-term goals. They make choices that feel good now, but cost them later. And life always collects. You either pay now with discipline or you pay later with regret. That's a hard truth, but it's a fair one. Your mindset is shaped the same way. The thoughts you allow every day become the thoughts you believe. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, not ready, not capable, your mind will accept that as truth. But if you develop the habit of speaking life into yourself, even when you don't feel it yet, your confidence begins to grow. Confidence isn't loud, it's trained. Discipline is self-respect. It's saying I value my future more than my comfort right now. And discipline doesn't come from motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline comes from habits you've practiced so long, they become automatic. You don't argue with yourself anymore. You just do what needs to be done. The scary part is this: your daily decisions are quietly designing your future while you're busy living your present. One day, you wake up and your life looks exactly like the habits you practice. That's not luck, that's alignment. And whether you like what you see or not depends on what you've been doing consistently. You don't need to be perfect. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. You will mess up. You will have off days. But the key is returning to the habit, getting back on track, refusing to let one bad decision turn into a bad pattern. Successful people don't avoid failure. They avoid quitting. Ladies and gentlemen, when you understand that small daily decisions shape who you become, you stop underestimating today. Today matters. What do today matters. Because today is building tomorrow, and tomorrow is building your destiny. One habit at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you honestly, because this part right here is where most people lose the battle. Discipline and focus are the difference between wishful thinking and real achievement. Everybody wishes, everybody hopes, everybody dreams. But discipline is what turns dreams into something you can touch, something you can live in, something you can pass on. Wishful thinking sounds good. It feels good. It lets you imagine a better life without changing anything. But life doesn't reward wishes. Life rewards work done with focus and discipline. You can wish all day long, but if you don't develop the habit of doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, nothing changes. Focus is powerful because the world is designed to distract you. Distractions are everywhere. Noise is everywhere. Everybody wants your attention, your time, your energy. And if you don't discipline your focus, you'll spend your whole life busy but not productive, moving but not advancing, tired but not fulfilled. Discipline means you decide in advance what matters most. You don't wake up every day and negotiate with yourself. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it. You already decided. Discipline removes excuses. It removes confusion. It gives you structure when emotions try to take over. See, emotions are unreliable. Some days you feel strong. Some days you feel tired. Some days you feel confident. Some days you feel doubtful. If you only move when you feel motivated, you'll live a very inconsistent life. Discipline is what carries you on the days. Motivation doesn't show up. Focus works the same way. When you're focused, you stop chasing everything and start building something. A distracted mind can't create success. It can only create stress. You can't give your best to 10 different directions at the same time. Success demands attention. It demands that you say no to good things so you can say yes to the right thing. A lot of people are busy, but they're not disciplined. They fill their days with activity, but not with progress. Discipline asks a hard question. Is what I'm doing right now moving me closer to my goal or further away from it? And that question requires honesty, real honesty. Let me tell you something real. Discipline is uncomfortable at first. It goes against your flesh. It goes against shortcuts. It goes against instant gratification. That's why most people avoid it. But discomfort is temporary. Regret lasts a long time. When you choose discipline, you're choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. Focus also means learning how to block out opinions. Everybody has advice. Everybody has something to say about your dream. But disciplined focus teaches you whose voice matters and whose doesn't. If you listen to everybody, you'll never move anywhere. Focus protects your vision. You don't accidentally become disciplined. You train it, you practice it, you fail at it and get back up. Discipline is built through repetition, doing the hard thing again and again until it becomes normal, until your standard rises, until excuses feel uncomfortable instead of effort. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Talent will open the door, but discipline keeps you in the room. Focus keeps you growing once you're there. There are a lot of gifted people who never reach their potential because they never mastered discipline. They rely on ability instead of consistency. Wishful thinking says someday. Discipline says today. Wishful thinking waits for the right mood. Discipline moves regardless of mood. Wishful thinking talks about goals. Discipline works quietly while nobody is watching. It's the separation. And let me say this clearly. Discipline is not about being hard on yourself. It's about respecting yourself. It's saying, my future deserves better than my excuses. My family deserves better than my procrastination. My purpose deserves my full attention. Focus sharpens over time. The more disciplined you become, the clearer your direction gets. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your vision. You start moving with intention. Ladies and gentlemen, success doesn't belong to the loudest, the luckiest, or the most gifted. It belongs to the discipline and the focus. The ones who showed up when it was hard. The ones who stayed locked in when distractions called their name. The ones who stopped wishing and started working. Ladies and gentlemen, changing your habits means changing your life, no matter where you start. I don't care what your past looks like. I don't care how many mistakes you've made, how many times you've failed, or how many times you've started and stopped. Your future is not controlled by where you've been. It's controlled by what you repeatedly do from this point forward. A lot of people feel trapped by their history. They think, this is just who I am. This is how my life always goes. But that's not truth. That's familiarity. You simply practiced the same habits for so long that they feel like your identity. But habits are learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. You are not stuck. You are trained, and training can be changed. The beautiful thing about habits is that they don't care about your age, your background, or your starting point. Habits respond to consistency. You don't need permission to change. You don't need approval. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need a decision, a real one that says, I'm no longer going to lie. They on autopilot. Most people wait for life to force them to change. They wait until the pain is unbearable, until the situation is desperate, until they hit rock bottom. But you don't have to wait for a breakdown to have a breakthrough. You can choose growth without crisis. You can choose discipline without disaster. Changing your habits doesn't mean your life changes instantly. That's where people get discouraged. At first, nothing looks different. You still wake up in the same place. You still face the same challenges. But something powerful is happening beneath the surface. You are becoming someone new, and becoming always comes before receiving. When you change your habits, you change how you think. When you change how you think, you change how you respond. And when you change how you respond, your environment eventually has to shift. Life responds to who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Let me tell you something important. Growth feels awkward at first. New habits feel uncomfortable because they challenge the old version of you. The old you wants to stay comfortable. The old you wants to go back to what's familiar. But familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. You're going to have moments where you slip, moments where you fall back into old patterns. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. The key is not quitting on yourself. The key is returning to the habit, returning to the standard you set. Every time you return, you get stronger. Your habits are always working, whether you're aware of them or not. They're either building your future or borrowing from it. That's why changing your habits is an act of self-respect. It's you saying, my future matters too much for me to keep living carelessly. You don't have to change everything at once. That's overwhelming. You just have to change something. One habit done consistently can create momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence fuels courage. And courage opens doors you never thought you could walk through. People will notice the change before you do. They'll say you're different. You're more focused, more disciplined, more calm. That's not magic. That's habits doing their quiet work. And some people won't like it because when you change, it reminds them that change is possible. Don't let that stop you. You weren't created to stay the same. Growth is your responsibility. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to discipline you. Nobody is coming to build your habits for you. That power belongs to you. Every day, you wake up with a choice. You can reinforce the old life or invest in a new one. You can repeat yesterday or prepare for tomorrow. That choice doesn't shout. It whispers, and it shows up in the smallest actions. Ladies and gentlemen, when you understand that changing your habits is changing your life, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for permission. You take ownership, and ownership is where real power begins.